quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
Hey, we're tuned in to another edition of the business side of music. In the studio today, a gentleman I had the opportunity to meet, 6, 7, 8 months ago, maybe a year ago. Might have been longer, I don't remember. He is one half of a brother-producer-director duo, the Saylors Brothers. The pursuit of their childhood dreams has really led them down a path of many adventures. I've seen some of the pictures, so I can tell you there's some good adventures there.
We like adventures.
From the Lombardi Honors to Sundance premieres, filming Lee Child's passion projects for the Jack Reacher franchise, one of my favorite franchises out there. Credits that you guys have accumulated include national music video, animation, motion picture, TV, and docs featured on, and this is kind of like an alphabet soup of what you guys have been on. PBS, BBC, NPR, Fox News, MTV, BET, CNN, Netflix, Hulu, on and on and on. I could just read this for days, but let's just get you on the show and talk about it. Kyle Saylors, welcome for being here, man.
Hey, Bob. How's it going?
Going good. We were talking about a television project, I think it was a year or so ago, but we really got to know each other over this Dinner with Dreamers that you're doing. And if people don't know about this, they need to find out about it because it's a really cool thing. But before we get into that, let's talk about how you got into this business, and because you've really had quite the adventure get where you are now.
Yeah. I grew up in a little dusty Texas town from Eastland. Eastland's predominantly, I guess, through my cumulative years when I got a video camera and we watched Steven Spielberg movies, and it was like West Texas, Friday Night Lights sort of town. You either played football or you didn't exist. And so I didn't play football, so I didn't exist. And
right.
So, my dad was a cop, pastor, and a truck driver. And so my mom...
that's a lot of different hats.
Yeah, 2 at a time usually, 1 or 2 of these. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she worked part-time sometime. And me and my brother had this, when I say we, I'm referring to my brother, but we just always watched movies and TV shows. And it's funny because mostly we watched old stuff because my mom wouldn't let us watch almost anything. So my brother was really disappointed when he found out that Haley Mills was actually the age of my mom. And he had a crush on her.
Yeah.
And somehow we got this fascination with telling stories and filming. We had no clue and no connections and no anything. And
no experience?
Nothing, yeah. And so I saved my own money and bought a VHS camera. And through that, I ended up, we wanted to watch like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies or whatever, and my mom wouldn't let us watch it because it had too many bad things in it. So late at night, I would take my VHS camera and a VCR, and I would make another version of the movie, and I could trim out the stuff. And that's how I learned how to edit, was
oh, wow.
was by making my own version of movies. So now it's funny because, when you pause the VHS, to do a little rainbow thing in the corner,
right.
It's kind of like or a little, and so all through the movie. But we got to have Invasion USA and Commandos and Terminators, our own version. And she's like, "You sure there's nothing in there?" No,
Now it's G-rated, and your mom's okay with it.
We just had this fascination, kept making little. Now I guess they'd be called short films. We didn't know what they were. We were just making little movies, and I remember I'd get like a WD-40 can. This is probably a terrible idea. Don't do this at home, but I would take my G.I. Joe guys and we would put them out on a thing, and then I would do an explosion. So like the explosion scenes, we would light up a match and go, and it would just create these huge explosions, right, knock the guys over. So we would edit those into our little films. Other than that, we had no clue really what or how. And I went to school at East Texas State University, which is now Texas A&M, and they had a radio, television broadcasting. And so I thought, well, I'll at least try that. And after I got in there, I was like, it was old equipment, and it was just like, you could tell like I was a shy kid growing up. So like when we talk about Dinner with Dreamers and all my enormous amounts of friends later, you'll realize like I was a shy kid and I didn't really have any friends.
Yeah,
and
I'm shaking my head because I can't believe that at all, knowing you. Yeah.
I had my friend Luke and Dustin and Rex, one from elementary school, one or two friends, and one or two from junior high and from high school. And but that was about it. Like literally, that was it. And so even in small schools where everybody knew each other, I still didn't have any friends. Through that, I went to that college, and halfway through, I was sitting there, and I was like, I said, I raised my hand. It was the only thing that I said the entire semester. I asked, and I wasn't trying to be mean. I was just asking a question. I was like, so have you ever done anything that's actually aired on television?
You asked your instructor this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was total silence. I didn't expect a reaction. It went to total silence. And he goes, what does that have to do with anything? And in my brain, it was like, well, what am I doing here? So I decided, I went back. I was like, I don't know. I was working at Ace Hardware because my grandpa made me. And I hated Ace Hardware so horribly bad that I was like, don't ever want to have another job in my life. So I was like, whatever I do, I am not doing this with my life. I hated it with a passion. And so I said, okay, my friend was going to this little private school in Waxahachie, Texas called Southwestern. He's like, hey, why don't you come to campus days? And so I did, and I saw it, and it was good people. It seemed like a fun place. So I was like, okay. So it had a media communications degree, and it was the least credits of anything in the whole school. So I thought, hey, I can do that. So in between, and this will lead into the Dinner with Dreamers, I read a book, and I was like, okay, nobody knows I'm a nerd. I get a different haircut. I changed my clothes. And I read this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So it was just laid out all these principles of what to do to, okay, I got to make more friends here. I'm going to try to this. So when I got to college, I get there. First thing, I show up and they say, hey, come here. And I go over there and they're like, we don't know how this got in our book, but we have no media department. And so,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. And so I was like, you have to let me take it because it's in the book. And so they're like, okay, fine. You can just take speech, pick something else, whatever you want, and we'll just count it as your credit. And so I was like, okay. We get there, and I walk up to it. I was in this little dorm, and there were people always sitting in the lobby or on the couch, on the chairs. And so I said, whoever's sitting there, I'm just going to walk up, and I'm just going to ask them like 5 or 6 questions. So I walked up, hey, how's it going? Where are you from? And then I was like, oh yeah, how'd you decide to come here? Just some basic, They were like, cool. So then I would literally just get up, talk to them for a minute, and then as soon as my conversation skills ended, I just left. And I went away and I wrote down their name and everything I could remember that they just said. And then I put it in my pocket. And at the end of a week, I met and memorized 200 people by their first name.
Wow.
And the majority of those people, whenever I said, hey, John, hey, Susie, hey, whatever, they would say, wow, you're the first person to remember my name. So instantly, I was super popular. And then I realized my whole life, I was like, man, this was so easy. Because it had nothing to do with growing up in little towns where you think if you're not the football star, you just don't exist. It just changed my brain set. That created a whole different life for me from there. Ironically, the guy that worked, I was doing work, study, loan kind of thing. So I worked in the recruitment department. And the guy that he had worked at a CBN, this channel that does TV shows at 700 Club or whatever. He came, so since he had some TV experience, he said, why don't I get Rob Price was his name. He's like, why don't I get the school to do a promo video? We're in recruitment, and in 85 years, they've never had a promo video. So we did, and we ended up making their first promo video, and then we sent it out. So instead of sending postcards, we sent videos. And the next year,
Back in the day of VHS tapes.
VHS. The next year, they had their largest increase in attendance in their entire history of the school. A few years ago, I ran into that guy, and now they just built I don't even know, $20-something million communications complex, and he's like the president of the media department of that. And so I was the first graduate. And I was asleep. There's a picture of me in the yearbook asleep on the front row because I had an associate's degree. And my counselor said, "What do you want to do with your life?" And I was like, "I want to go do this and make movies."
Want to become the next Steven Spielberg?
Yeah. And she goes, "But you can't, all you're going to have is an associate's. You can't do that because what's your backup plan? You need to have a bachelor's at least so you can have a backup plan." And I was like, well, this was like a Christian school. So I was like, hey, if you think God told me to do this and you're saying that I don't need to listen to him. She was like, I don't know. So anyway, I was like, forget it. I don't know where to skip ahead because I have 92,000 stories. I crammed in like 200 years into a 10-year span after that. But basically, we started at a small local station that had a network show, and we started in cameras and grip first, running cables, and then camera. The same thing on their network show, and then a couple of people from this is over a year or two, a couple of people from there said one day, and this is how a lot of opportunity happens, is they were like, 2 people didn't show up. If you and your brother can get over here, we'll hire you right now. So within 10 minutes, we were there at Dallas at the Texas Stadium. We got on staff with the NBC Sports doing the Dallas Cowboy games.
Wow.
So at that moment, then we thought, oh, wow, this is, and so what happened though, is in our brain, like these were growing up in Texas, watching the Dallas Cowboys, now we're hanging out in the rooms. We had the little NBC pass, so we could literally go anywhere. I even got a picture. I went up to the top of the catwalk overlooking Texas Stadium, looking down, and I took a picture from it's maybe the only from the hole in the top of the stadium before they tore it down.
Yeah.
And we got to be on the sidelines. But what happened is we realized all these people that run the shows and they're just knuckleheads like everybody else. And so we realized that there's nothing special or different about the people that do the biggest shows in the world or the biggest, we worked on the Thanksgiving game, and there was no difference in those people than the people we grew up with. All it was is they chose a different path, so it kind of unlocked our brain to realize even these celebrities, even whoever, they're just all normal people who pursued their path.
Right place, right time.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
From there, I ended up, we did all kind of crazy stuff. Opened a restaurant. We got into, I did concert. Ended up with my cousin. We promoted the Galveston Island Spring Break concert series. We did all these random things because I still had no concept of how to get into film and television and stuff I wanted to do, because it was just, anyway, at one point we were like, okay, we want to make our own stuff and we want to be producers or directors. So we figured, well, we don't have any proof that we can direct, so we'll produce first, because that's just kind of like putting stuff together. And I asked a guy, had a big, huge, awesome animation studio. And I was like, hey, if I can bring you business, can I be a producer? And he's like, if they got money, you can be whatever you want. So, so that was in my brain. Through this long series of odd events one night, going to 4 different Denny's in a row, we ended up at a Denny's at 1:30 in the morning. And a guy from No Limit Records who had this big diamond chain on was there. And I walked up to him and I said, hey, we do music videos. You would No Limit? And he's like, yeah. And I said, he goes, what budget you work with? Now, we had made one $600 video. And I said, oh, man, you can't afford us. And he goes, oh, yeah, we can afford anything we want. And that turned into one of MTV's most expensive videos of the year, which launched the song to #1 on the Billboard charts, Soldiers, which was, I believe, Master P's first on the main Billboard charts. And then it was Master P, Snoop Dogg, Silk the Shocker, C Murder. And so all of a sudden, these 2 white boys from Texas are working with gangster rappers. And
once again, right place, right time. Just happened to be Denny's.
Yeah.
Denny's. We're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to start digging into Dinner with Dreamers, because what you're talking about really is that perfect example. If you dream it and you can envision it, it can come true. It's just kind of being with the right people, finding the right places and opportunity. Kyle Saylors is in the studio with Saylors Brothers, Kyle and his brother Kenny, and we're catching up on how this whole Dinner with Dreamers has started. You're listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music.
Hi, this is Alex Heike, and you are listening to The Business Side of Music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hi, this is Vinny Rebus, the founder of Indie Connect. Our goal is to ensure that you have the knowledge, the tools, skills, resources, and connections that you need to develop a profitable and long-lasting career in music. One way we do this is through these Business Side of Music podcasts. I'd also like to invite you to check out Indie Connect magazine, our free multimedia online publication packed with practical interviews and advice from music industry experts. Go to www.indieconnectmag.com. That's www.indieconnectmag.com. Let us walk with you and guide you every step of your musical journey.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio, Kyle Saylors here on this edition of The Business Side of Music, talking not only about his life, but something to me that I think you started that is very cool. And it started in one city, and it's really kind of expanded, I don't know, all over the globe, and that's Dinner with Dreamers.
I just moved from L.A. maybe 2 years prior, and I had, in L.A., I experienced what I had never, growing up in Texas, people are just in general friendly. You know, everybody going down the road, they wave at each other.
It's kind of that way in the South, all over, yeah.
Just like, you know, and so when I went to L.A., people were from all over the world, and people and everywhere. I've been traveled all over the world and through the projects and whatever, and people are in general friendly. But when they get to LA, some reason in general, the culture has become like, and I don't think it's intentional. It's just like, I got to protect what's mine. And
right.
So, and it's that way because I understand, like I went through and I had made some bad business partners and bad decisions, and we had con artists basically that just took, because we were nice, you know, that we were trusting good guys, and they just took advantage of that. And so we had to learn our own way. But through that, I just never understood the dynamics. So me and Kenny would walk in a room and we'd meet somebody and we would just be ourselves. And it threw people off like all the time, either for good or for bad. I don't know. But we were just like, hey, what's up? We're from Texas. They instantly, I walk in, I say hi, and they're like, they start laughing. Some people literally started laughing,
yeah.
You know? And so I don't know if we were caricatures or what, but we just made friends a little differently. But I had very few friends. And before that, when I lived in Dallas, I'd had a lot of friends. And so between those years of college through that, when we moved to LA, all those years, everywhere I went, I made friends. But in LA, it was very hard to make friends. And so after 7 years of that, I had some really good friends and we made some amazing relationships, but it was just exhausting. And so when I moved to Nashville, I moved here on literally like within a 2-week notice of just like in my brain, like I'm supposed to go to Nashville. Like all right, we're going to go to Nashville. So at one point I was going through some hard stuff in my life, and I was sitting there on my couch, and we used to have a Christmas party at my house, and I bought a log cabin out on the lake. Basically, I was sitting there, and it was just this, I don't know if it was epiphany or what it was, but it was just like, invite your friends over. Like, I was going through a rough stuff, and then I was like, hey, invite your friends over. So I thought of probably 5 people that I was like, okay, this guy, man, he had worked with all these big names, the classic rock stars. And then here's this guy, he's in the film side, and here's this guy, and I was like, I don't think any of them have ever met each other. So, the idea just popped in my head. I was like, can you imagine if those guys all got together, what they could come up with? That was really what it started as. Is like, I called 5 people, hey, what are you doing the weekend after New Year's? Because Nashville is so full of stuff going on all
the time. Yeah.
So I just figured, the weekend after New Year's, doing anything? They're like, no. I was like, you want to come over to the house? Now, these 5 people had no clue that what was going to happen even in the next 2 weeks, nor did I. But one of those guys played country music, and he's like, dude, if these guys are going to be there, I'll play for them. And so, well, I guess he told somebody, because an hour later I get a call. It's like, hey, if Billy's going to be there, I want to play. And within a day, I had 7 music artists wanting to play. So I thought, well, why not? We'll
So
throw
much
music.
for a small, intimate evening.
So then I thought, okay, now we got music. I might as well invite more people. So 2 weeks later, I had 150 of my friends just over at the house. My only rules was no ego when you get here. Just walk around. Doesn't matter. Some people are at the top and some people are brand new and some people are in the middle and some people are independent. Some people are studio executives. Some people are whatever. And it doesn't matter. Just when you come in the log cabin, we're all the same. And so it was a very seemingly simple premise and everybody just had a good time. And then that was it. We had such a good time that it went till like 4 a.m, I guess, sitting there talking and people, just, and I finally just was like, man, that was so awesome. I was like, I'll probably do that again next year. And literally that was it. Like I didn't think about it other than that. I heard about it a little bit the next few days. And then, as anything, it kind of dies off and people stop talking about it. And then about 3 months later, I went into this studio over here, Dark Horse, and there was a guy, I was filming something, I can't remember, and there was a guy playing the violin, and he said, hey, Kyle, and he was the very first one that made this impression in my brain, but he's like, hey, Kyle, I just want to say thank you. And I was like, what's that for? Because I don't ever see him. And he goes, because I played at your party, he goes, I got 6 gigs, playing violin. And I was like, well, that's cool. And then the next day I was in Costco. Somebody walked over, hey, Kyle, so-and-so, I was with so-and-so at your party. And anyway, we're working on this TV show together, man. It's pretty cool. And then that happened the next day. And then Taylor Swift's video producer called me and he said, hey, Kyle, I met so-and-so at your party. I just want to ask him about you. We might be doing this. And then another one. And then I was like, okay, this is really strange now. Like almost like one a day, And then at the end of a week, I guess, or so, 10 or 12, 7 to 12 days, somewhere in there, a friend was he was an entertainment guy running for city council here, and Robert Swope, and he had an event, just, fundraiser event, and it was one of the guys from Home Improvement Show. I don't remember who it was, but I think that's who it was. Or maybe it's Tim Allen's brother. I don't know. But anyway, it was somebody I thought, ooh, that's cool. I want to go meet them. And so I went over there, and when I did, one of the guys that I specifically remember, this first time I ever met him was in my living room at my house, was a guy called Brian Thomas, and he has a global action platform, and he's done humanitarian work all over the world, totally different than the entertainment industry. And he's like, hey, you want to go out to eat after this? And I was like, yeah, sure. So we go out, and we go to the Giovanni's, this Italian eatery restaurant, and the owners from New York, and we sit down, and there's these CFOs from New York and this professor from Boston and this author that had brought Brian and then somebody else. For 30 minutes, they were just talking about the socioeconomic development of the Philippines and how they're developing 1 million acres there. And they were just telling all these stories, and I was oddly out of place because I thought, I have no clue why I'm here. And so I've been just eating my spaghetti and enjoying it. And then about 30 minutes in, he goes, you want to know why you're here? And I was like, yeah, sure. He goes, David here, when he introduced me, we really reconnected and introduced me to him and at your party, and then where he introduced us to him and he introduced us to him, he introduced us to him. We're all here working on this because of your party. He goes, you need to have another party. I was like, all right. So 2 weeks later, I had another party and I had 200 people, except this time I said, hey, if you know somebody cool, you can bring, you just my friends. And from that, this is where it starts getting like interesting or odd, I guess, turned into the weirdest hobby ever, which is I go to dinner with probably, I don't even know, a couple of thousand people a year. I don't even know. But, and it started at this moment when we had another party and they were like, I said, hey, put your business cards in this can. I hate networking and I hate I hate parties. Everything is the opposite. I had this big stack of cards and then I was like, man, and then a bunch of people was like, hey, can we get coffee sometime? Can we go to dinner? And I was like, I'll never get any work done. So I thought, I don't know what to do. So I thought, I'm going to just invite like 24 people. I called the restaurant. They said, we got 24 people in our private room. So I said, you know what? I messaged people on Facebook. There's a secret dinner. You don't know where it's at or who's going to be there, but you know why. Share, connect, change your world. Are you in or out? And they all said, I'm in. And so we got together. They had no clue what they were going to. We got together, and I didn't call it Dinner with Dreamers at that point. It was just like a secret dinner. They just went around the table, and everybody just told what they do and made friends. And it was so cool. And I thought, I always go to eat with somebody every week anyway. So I was like, if I'm in town next week, I'll do the same thing. So I did, but it was a lot of work trying to message everybody and all this. So I was like, if I put them in a secret Facebook group, then I can just add. So I didn't even ask anybody. I added everybody from my party in to Dinner with Dreamers secret Facebook group that's even unsearchable. They had no clue what it was. I didn't have any clue what it was. I just thought that was a cool name. And so I added them all in, and then I said, Dinner with Dreamers Thursday at 7. Are you in? That was it. So I thought, if nobody responds in 10 minutes, I'll just delete it. And so this great thing about, digital, you just delete it. Oh, as if it didn't exist.
Never existed. Yeah.
And so I thought, I'll use this for my next party, And then all of a sudden I turned on my phone and it was like, bing, 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 bing. And I was like, what is that? And I clicked back on and it was, I'm in. And then I thought, wait, I've only got like X amount of seats.
Right.
So I just said, okay, that's it. Now, they had no clue what they were coming to. They just...
Where it was at.
That was it. And that started this hobby. I've never tried to monetize it. It's just I don't even know there's really no way to describe it except good people trying to bring other good people to all meet each other and have a good time.
We're going to take another break and come back and dig some more into Dinner with Dreamers and talk a little bit about some projects you're working on because, you're just kind of that adventurous kind of guy. So
yeah.
In the studio with us, Kyle Saylors, Saylors Brothers Productions. He and his brother Kenny, producer-director duo, and you're listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music.
This is Bill Zufelt with Spire Entertainment coming to you from beautiful Nashville, Tennessee, and you're listening to The Business Side of Music with host Bob Bender.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
Wow, I just joined the Music Starts Here community. This is a truly hidden gem for anyone in the music business. Whether you live in Nashville or anywhere else in the world, Music Starts Here is like a GPS for your music career. This is the place to be if you want to get advice and direction from some seriously talented musical people who have been where you want to go. Music news, events, and a great big community with resources for artists, songwriters, musicians, studio and tech, along with music business advice from pros in the industry, all on one site. Make sure you get your free profile now. Go to www.musicstartshere.org. That's musicstartshere.org.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
Hey, we're back in the studio. You're listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music. Sitting across the table from me today, Kyle Saylors with Saylors Brothers Productions, he and his brother Kenny. These guys have created a lot of really amazing content over the years, but this Dinner with Dreamers kind of started out to be nothing and has really turned into something. My wife and I have attended quite a few of the Dinner with Dreamers now, and you're right, it's kind of like, hey, we're going to do this and post it, and I'm going to cut it off, and so we're all clicking I'm in. Your log cabin party in the new year is famous or infamous, depending on how you'd say that. But you've had some really cool guests that come and speak at these dinners. One that I absolutely loved was Bill Sink, who was Neil Diamond's bassist, and his story and how he got there.
It was awesome.
But you wound up doing this in other cities, not just Nashville.
Yes. And so I started here because this is just where it was. And I literally, even to this day, I really had no plans for it other than it's just one step at a time, one dinner at a time. So after I did it for a while, I was like, I would always say, like, we have a special guest, but I wouldn't tell anybody who it was.
Sometimes when you did that, did you have the special guest, or
yeah.
were you still looking? So you already had one in, okay.
Yeah, so I would talk to somebody like, hey, you going to come? Just somebody that had cool stories, like you got cool stories. And so but what would happen is, like, I should tell everybody who that was, and then they know they're missing out, So after it was over, I'd say, oh, this is who came. And then they're like, dang it, I wish I would have come.
I'd known, yeah, exactly.
So eventually then, as the purpose was that it's the intimate version, and sometimes it's hard to keep it that way because now it'll be, it could be tomorrow night. If I got a phone call, tomorrow night so-and-so's in town, literally we could get 100 people there. I mean, I don't but I'd prefer it actually 24 to 40 to 50 because it still feels like you're actually having dinner. I can literally that's how I've made this mass amount of friends, I guess, is through and just keeping in touch with people and I talk with people. But what happened is, so I would start saying, hey, one of our friends, he was the director for VeggieTales, and he got his gig. He's going to direct a new DreamWorks series and become one of their main directors. And so for animation. And so I was like, hey, let's throw a going away party. And so I was like, okay, we already know VeggieTales. What else does he like? And they're like, oh, he likes Broadway. So I asked, hey, does anybody in the group know somebody from Broadway? And there was a Broadway star that lives here now. And so she came and sang some of his favorite songs. So what I try to do is not just I try to make it special for the person who's telling their story. And then I also love getting the people that are behind the people, because a lot of times celebrities or whoever's on media a lot, they always have kind of a pre-program. This is what I say. Whereas if I get somebody, I'd rather get the people who were behind that person, because they're the ones who made it work. They're the ones who knew the dynamics and the magic of what really it took. And I just say, okay, tell the best moments, the worst moments, and what you learned in the middle. And somewhere everybody in the room will be at one of those things.
Yeah, and can relate to it.
Yeah. And it became very inspiring, because I love stories because I'm a storyteller. So I would just I've learned as much as anybody else, probably more because I get to hear them all. And so whenever I would hear somebody's story, and a few of these specific stories, which I'll tell you a little bit later, literally changed the course of my life. I know if that's doing that for me, what it could be, because when you hear somebody's stories, I was like, man, I wish I'd have heard this 20 years ago. I probably could have saved 10 years of my life by literally listening to this one story.
You and me both. Yeah. Yeah. You and me both.
It was kind of just my friends. And so somebody asked me the first 6 months, I had no perceived benefit from this other than just having a good time and seeing my friends, and which is a great benefit. But they would ask me, they were like, why are you doing this, Kyle? They're like, people are just coming to meet your friends. And I was like, well, yeah, that's kind of the point.
To me, it's networking in its finest form.
Yeah.
It really is. You're meeting people that you may not otherwise meet, or if you do, it's in a crowded room and there's some other activity going on. But this is a place where you sit down at a table, you may not know who's sitting next to you, and you start exchanging business cards, and you're like going, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's such random, because it's music and film and TV and people from nonprofits and people from even some entrepreneurs and some writers and from starving artists to super rich people to when they all sit down at the same table, they'll make friends. I just say, just make friends. And the best projects that have ever come out of my entire life came out of people who could absolutely do nothing for me by perceived value. But then you make a friend with somebody, and then you don't know who their uncle is, or their great, they might be just like, That's right. And it's amazing, actually. And so by doing this, suddenly what happened in LA is in a general sense, people are like, I don't want to share my connections because you might steal them. And
you're right. And that is the mentality in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It is. It's just nobody wants to help anybody out.
And it becomes a pervasive part of the culture, they're just trying to protect themselves.
Right.
Like I was there. I was just like, okay.
They're not bad people.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the mindset.
Yeah, it's like sitting in traffic all day. It just becomes your mindset. Okay, this is the way it is. But so mine was the reverse. If you can meet and you can meet and y'all help each other, what does that matter to me? Like, why would I have to have a part of that or anything other than I realized in my own life, I'm probably borderline workaholic and I work around the clock, but I love what I do so much I don't think about it. But I have limited impact in this world based on my projects and my things. But by doing a dinner, and these two people that would have never met can meet, and they go out and do something, it's like it increases my impact in the world without doing anything except going to dinner. There's something, so the real principles behind what I think make it work are much deeper than the initial what it actually is. And other people around town that haven't gone, but they hear about it because it's a secret, and if you're not invited, you don't even know. But
right.
It's amazing how many people, even when I travel to other cities, that hear about it, that have no clue. Like, who or what, but people talk about it, and they go and they learn and they share with somebody else, I guess, and somebody else. So all these people hear about it, but then they don't know how to get there. What it is that I think is different, because I've gone to a bunch of these I hate going to networking things, but and I don't even like that word. I don't even use that word anymore. I just call it a huge friendship circle out of control. But it's that ability to just go in and don't judge anybody by the cover and just make friends. And if people can do that, and instead of asking, what can you do for me? What can I do for you? How am I? And that one simple word, I just ran into somebody in LA a couple of months ago, and he was literally, so now on Facebook, if I'm somewhere, boom, I check in, somebody's going to be within a block somewhere. Yeah. He was walking down the street. Literally, he's like, hey, are you in LA? I just saw on Facebook. I was like, yeah, I'm on the corner of this. He's like, I'm on the corner 2 blocks down. We sit down, and we actually walked from Santa Monica all the way to Beverly Hills, I think, and just walked for a couple of hours. And he was talking, and he was like, he came to the very first Dinner of Dreamers. And he was from Austin at that time, and he was working with Robert Rodriguez and a couple of other guys there. He goes, I just want to tell you, I've never really told you this, but he said, I literally came to one Dinner of Dreamer in that first year, because I didn't live there in Nashville. And he said, it changed the way that I friendships with people. And he said, I stopped thinking, just that one little plant was like, what could I help you with? And he goes, it has completely changed the course of my life, just that one precept of just... And he goes, and I took that back to Austin and then in LA, whatever it is that he does. And so anyway, I love hearing stories like that.
When you think about when you can start planting seeds like that, you're changing the world, and you're changing it really kind of one person at a time.
Yeah.
And that's really what Dinner with Dreamers has turned into. I know that it didn't stay too secret at one point, because Huffington Post picked up, I guess, did an article on it.
Yeah.
But that was a surprise for you, I guess.
Yeah. Outside, okay, there's one event, and then I'll go to this one. One event that was pivotal, I was in Africa filming on a project, and somebody in the group said, hey, and this is just kind of how it always happens, it's kind of organic. They're like, hey, I see you're in Africa filming. When you get back, we own a place called Africa House, which I had no clue existed. It's in Gallatin. This is old plantation mansion, and they had bought it, and they put African antiquities in there. And they were like, why don't we do one out there? And I was like, it's an hour outside of town. And I was like, yeah, sure. And so they said, well, we'll fix a big African dinner. And then so when I got back, she's like, hey, why don't you come over here and meet the president? I was assuming it's the president of the Africa House. So I get over there, and no one was there yet. And then they're coming, and they're like, oh, Madam President is here. And I was like, Madam President? And they're like, yeah, she's the president of Malawi, the second woman to ever become a president in Africa. And she's the most powerful woman in Africa. Oh, and so anyway, she came in, and she's like, oh, y'all are having a party this weekend? Can I come to it? I was like, yeah. All of a sudden, then I was like, okay. So we ended up getting Melanie, this artist from Woodstock, and we got Nicole C. Mullen, an artist, Christian artist, who had a big hit, Redeemer. That night, it was something magical about that night. And all my friends that were there from the very first log cabin party or the very first Dinner of Dreamers, a lot of them were there. And they, after it was over, they were like, what is going on? And I was like, I don't know.
That's cool, though.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And it was a synergy of just, and all these people, I've never paid anybody. I was like, if you want to come perform here, yeah, no, but I've never paid anybody. I don't make money off of it. And so these are people, some of who get paid large fees to speak or large fees to perform, and they just come and do it.
Play in front of an intimate audience.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so from that, going to the Huffington Post, they were doing a women in film luncheon, I guess, and I'd almost like it was on my calendar, but I forgot about it. And then I was like, I looked, oh yeah, I got to do that tomorrow. And then I went over, and I was like, I didn't even know what it was. And so I didn't know if I was like on a panel. I didn't know anything about it. But anyway, I went over there. They were like all these people and just jamming in there. They were putting in extra chairs and all this. Oh man, y'all got a really great group here. And they're like, we've never had this many people. And I was like, well, who's here? I was like, why are they here? They're like, for you. And I was like, me?
Oh my gosh.
Because at this point, everything that I've done Dinner with Dreamers, it's all a secret. So it's just like, I don't know that anybody else knows about it. It's just like my buddies and who they tell. They were jammed out. And well, one of those ladies in there, wrote an article which ended up later to become published in the Huffington Post. And so, and she came up afterwards. She's like, "Can I interview you?" She didn't say what or for whatever. It was just like, "Yeah, sure." Once that came out, then even I was surprised because I didn't know about it till it actually came out. And then I was like, "Oh, wow, that's crazy," you know. And then all of a sudden, the other people were like, "Whoa, wait, what is going on?" Even the people in Nashville, like, "What is going on?" You know. So I was like,
Worst kept secret now.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, how can people find you?
That's a good question. My Facebook friends have tapped out. I'm trying to figure out that dilemma right now.
If you're a speaker or a guest or somebody you think might be, they might think they're a nice fit for Dinner with Dreamers, how would they reach out to you?
Yeah, first, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram. Kyle Saylors. There's only one other Kyle Saylors, Saylors. It's some kid in Florida. So if he's 13-year-old with a fish, it's not me.
It's not you. Yeah.
But yeah, through that, I'm still trying to figure out, because the rules on Facebook are if you're not somebody's friend, you can't add them to a secret group. So
right.
I can't even add people to my own group now. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, do I start a second Facebook page and whatever? So I don't know.
This is
problems
great.
with having too many friends.
No, that's never a problem. Kyle, thanks for being on the show. This was great.
Thank you.
A lot of good information, very inspirational. Hey, don't forget to check out our affiliates, including Lab Canna, fine hemp products since 2014. Click on their link on our website for more information and how to order their product line. Also, don't forget to check out our other affiliate, Music Starts Here. You can find them at www.musicstartshere.org. Probably the best one-stop shop for the singer, songwriter, or aspiring musician who is relocating to Nashville or wants to. Also, shameless plug for the business side of music. Become a YouTube subscriber. Check out our website at www.businesssideofmusic.com. Follow us on Facebook at the Business Side of Music Podcast or on Twitter at Business Side of Music Podcast.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Los Angeles, California and Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound designed by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.